At midnight, 1,000 feet of steel is moving through darkness, and the officer taking the bridge has not yet decided whether the quiet is trustworthy. The container ship is several days from port, running at sea speed along the edge of a heavily used route. The main engine is steady. The autopilot holds the ordered course. Navigation lights burn above decks stacked with containers. From the bridge wing, the bow is so far forward that its movement appears delayed, as though the ship must think before it turns. Nothing on the alarm panels demands attention. That does not mean nothing is happening. On this representative ship, you are the second officer beginning the midnight to 4 middle watch. For the next 4 hours, you are the officer of the watch, the captain's representative for safe navigation. A qualified rating remains on lookout. The engine room is operating in unmanned mode, with machinery alarms repeated to the bridge and the duty engineer available according to the ship's procedures. Most of the crew are asleep. You do not command every department. You cannot repair an engine, change the weather, or force another vessel to behave predictably. What you control is the bridge's response, what is noticed, what is verified, what is reported, and how early the ship begins to create room. The danger of this watch is not that an emergency has already begun. It is that routine conditions can hide the moment before one does. You reach the bridge before midnight because taking a watch is not the same as stepping through a door. The bridge is kept dim to protect night vision. Instrument faces glow in restrained colors. Radar sweeps repeat across dark screens. Ventilation moves quietly above the windows. The outgoing officer speaks in a low voice, but the handover is not casual conversation. You confirm the ship's position, course, speed, and intended track. You review the captain's standing orders, the conditions under which the master expects to be called. You check the weather, visibility, traffic, compass error, engine status, and any equipment limitation. You identify every target already being monitored and ask what each one is doing. One contact is overtaking far astern, another will pass safely ahead, a third is too distant for its movement to matter yet. You do not inherit labels, you inherit unfinished judgments. The relieving lookout also needs time for his eyes to adjust. Outside the glass, the sea is almost featureless. A vessel can be present first as a single light, then as a radar echo, then as a developing collision problem. The order matters less than whether the evidence agrees. The outgoing officer does not leave until you are satisfied. Once you accept the watch, the change is absolute. The ship's position does not pause. The contacts do not reset. Responsibility moves from one officer to another, while the vessel continues covering water. At midnight, the outgoing officer signs the record and leaves the bridge. You are not physically alone. The lookout is there, and the captain can be called, but only one officer is now assigned to assemble the entire navigational picture. 1,000 feet of ship continues forward on your interpretation. Most of the next hour looks uneventful because safe watchkeeping is built from repeated checks. You compare the ship's actual track with the planned route on the electronic chart display and information system, or ECDIS, the bridge's approved electronic navigation chart. You confirm that the safety settings and scale suit the waters ahead. You check radar on more than one range, so a target is not lost simply because the display is looking too close or too far away. You look outside. The lookout reports lights and changes in visibility. You compare what he sees with radar and the Automatic Identification System, or AIS, which broadcasts information from participating vessels. AIS can help identify a contact. It cannot prove that every vessel is transmitting, that every entry is correct, or that a target will maintain its present movement. You check the autopilot against the ordered course. You compare gyro repeaters. You verify navigation lights and bridge alarms. You record the ship's position, course, speed, weather, and significant traffic in accordance with the vessel's procedures. Each task is ordinary. Each can become dangerous if it is allowed to consume attention at the wrong time. A log entry is required, but the logbook cannot keep lookout. An electronic chart can show the route, but it cannot decide whether a faint echo is rain, sea clutter, or a small vessel. An alarm can demand acknowledgement without explaining which problem deserves priority. The officer of the watch is not a person staring at one screen. You are the point at which separate systems become one judgment. This is why routine responsibility can compete with an emergency. The same checks that prevent danger can become distractions if performed mechanically after the situation has changed. Your job is not to complete every task at its scheduled minute. Your job is to know which task can wait. By 2 a.m, the ship feels suspended outside normal time. The bridge is warm enough to be comfortable. The machinery vibration is constant. There is no conversation except short reports from the lookout and occasional radio traffic. The darkness offers little visual change. Human attention was not designed for 4 hours of controlled sameness. Fatigue does not always feel like falling asleep. It can appear as slower interpretation, a missed comparison, an unnecessary delay before acting, or confidence that arrives before the evidence. Even a watchkeeper who has met the required rest period still works against the body's strongest drive for sleep during the early morning hours. You manage it through movement and structure. You change position on the bridge. You scan outside, then radar, then the chart, then the compass, rather than allowing one display to hold your eyes. You speak with the lookout. You test your own assumptions by asking what has changed since the last check. Coffee may make you feel more awake. It does not accept the watch. At 02:35, the weather display shows a line of rain ahead. It is not severe, but it may reduce visibility and create radar clutter. The scattered echoes produced when the radar reflects from rain or rough water instead of a solid target. You review the captain's night orders. Call if visibility deteriorates. Call if traffic causes concern. Call whenever in doubt. Those instructions do not remove judgment. They define when pride must stop pretending to be independence. The watch remains quiet. Then the lookout reports one white light, low on the starboard bow. You find the light through binoculars, lose it in the darkness, then find it again. On radar, the contact is weak. It appears, fades into clutter, and returns. There is no useful AIS target in the same position. That does not make the vessel illegal, invisible, or harmless. It means one source of information is absent. You change radar range. You adjust the presentation carefully, without cleaning the screen so aggressively that the weak echo disappears with the rain. You acquire the contact for systematic observation. The first calculation suggests it will pass ahead, but the data is unstable because the echo is unstable. The lookout reports that the bearing is not changing much. A nearly steady bearing can indicate risk of collision, but one observation is not enough. You take another bearing. You watch the target's relative movement. You compare it with the rain line. You check your own ship's heading and speed to make sure the apparent problem is not being created by an error in your picture. At the same time, the scheduled position entry is due. A routine radio message arrives for the ship. The bridge navigational watch alarm system calls for acknowledgement. The chart shows the next planned waypoint approaching. Every item is real. Only one is beginning to remove sea room. You acknowledge the bridge alarm without looking away longer than necessary. The administrative message waits. The log entry waits. You tell the lookout to maintain continuous observation of the light and report any change immediately. The second radar observation is worse. The predicted closest point of approach, the minimum passing distance if both vessels continue as they are, has reduced. The time to that point is shortening. The target status and intention remain unclear. The rain ahead is thickening. This is not yet a close quarters emergency. That is precisely why the next decision matters. Early action has room to work. Late action has to be dramatic. You call the captain, not because a collision is certain, not because the ship is out of control. You call because traffic is causing concern. Visibility may deteriorate, and the available information does not support waiting alone. The master answers and starts toward the bridge. You call an additional qualified helmsman according to the ship's procedure and prepare to place steering and hand control if required. The lookout continues reporting. You use radar, sight, hearing, and every useful source without treating any single one as truth. The target alters slightly. Its behavior suggests a small working vessel, but its lights still do not give you a reliable story. You do not build a collision avoidance decision around a guess. The captain arrives and asks for the situation. You give position, course, speed, visibility, target bearing, observed movement, radar assessment, and the action already taken. You do not bury uncertainty beneath confident language. The master looks outside, checks the displays, and reads the same developing geometry. His presence does not automatically end your responsibility until he clearly states that he has taken over and you both understand the transfer. You remain the officer of the watch. That detail matters because two officers assuming the other is responsible is more dangerous than one officer admitting doubt. The captain does not seize the controls. He asks what you recommend. You recommend creating passing distance before the rain reaches both vessels, an early, substantial course alteration where safe, with speed available as a second control. The exact action must match the collision regulations, the traffic geometry, and the ship's maneuvering characteristics. This is not about turning randomly away from fear. It is about making an alteration another vessel can detect and giving the result time to become measurable. The captain agrees. The helmsman takes the wheel. The autopilot is disengaged. The course order is repeated, executed, and confirmed. 1,000 feet of steel begins to answer. The bow starts across the horizon slowly. On a ship this large, giving an order is not the same as receiving the result. The rudder moves first. The heading begins to change. The vessel's path over the seabed follows later. Containers, hull, water, and momentum all resist the idea that the bridge has already solved the problem. You monitor the rate of turn. You check the target on radar. You look outside for its light. The lookout reports it moving more clearly across the bow. That is the first evidence the alteration is working. You do not stop there. The predicted passing distance begins to increase, but radar calculations depend on stable observations. You continue tracking until the trend is established. You check that the course change is not creating a new problem with another vessel. You confirm that the ship remains inside safe, navigable water. You keep the engine available. The rain reaches the bridge windows. The target weakens again. For several minutes, the radar picture carries more weight, but radar is not allowed to become the only lookout. The rating listens for sound signals and searches the dark sector where the light was last seen. The vessel passes clear. No alarm announces the moment danger has ended. The geometry simply improves until the captain and officer can accept the margin. The ship is steadied on a safe heading. The target moves aft. The rain begins to thin. The emergency that viewers expect never arrives. What happened instead was a chain of routine duties performed early enough to keep the situation ordinary. A lookout reported one light, an officer changed radar range, repeated observations replaced assumption, standing orders were used, the master was called, and the alteration was monitored until it proved effective. Routine did not compete with the emergency. Routine prevented the emergency from taking control. The clock reaches 4 while the ship is still returning toward its planned track. The relieving chief officer is already on the bridge. His eyes adjust to the darkness. He listens to the situation, but you do not hand over during the maneuver. The end of a watch is a schedule, not permission to abandon unfinished risk. You continue monitoring the target until it is safely passed. You verify the new traffic picture. You confirm the ship's position and the route ahead. You record the course alteration, the master's arrival, the weather, and the significant navigational event. The message that waited can now be handled or passed to the appropriate person. Only when the ship is steady, the danger is understood, and the relieving officer has the full picture, can responsibility move again. The handover includes more than numbers. You explain what the target did, which radar settings produced the clearest return, how the rain affected visibility, what action was taken, and what remains worth watching. The chief officer checks the displays and looks outside before accepting. At 0412, the watch changes. Beyond the bridge, the ship's day is beginning. Galley lights come on. The deck department will soon start work. Your own chart and voyage planning responsibilities have not disappeared. They have only waited outside the watch. Relief ends one duty, not the contract built around it. You step away from the bridge, but your body does not immediately understand that the responsibility has ended. The radar picture remains in your mind. You replay the first weak echo, the decision to call, and the seconds before the passing distance began to open. Later, the log will make the event look clean. Time, position, course, weather, master called, action taken, vessel passed clear. It will not show how little evidence existed at the beginning. That is the hidden weight of the 4 a.m. watch. One officer does not hold a 1,000-foot ship through strength or constant drama. You hold it by refusing to let darkness, fatigue, routine, or pride decide which uncertainty can wait. At sea, the quietest watch is not the one where nothing happens. It is the one where somebody notices soon enough that nothing has to.